Now, the next thing we talked about are special triangles. Oops. Special triangles. And today we're going to talk about a 45, 45, 90 triangle. So guys, this is an isosceles triangle. It's an isosceles because you have 45 and 45. That's going to make an isosceles triangle. So it helps if I actually drew an isosceles triangle. That looks pretty good, not perfect. Okay. If I have an isosceles triangle, if I have a 45, 45, 90 triangle, and if I have that this is 4, that means this side is also 4. We need to find that right there. So I'm going to take 4 squared plus 4 squared. That gets me x squared. 16 plus 16 equals x squared. 32 is equal to x squared. If I take the square root of both sides, this 32 was the same thing as saying 2 times 16. If I simplify that radical, the square root of 16 is 4, radical 2, because we cannot take the square root of 2 because it is an irrational number. Square root of 2 is an irrational number. So let's try this again. Let's say I have 5, 5, and I want to find this. Okay, so I take 5 squared plus 5 squared equals x squared. 25 plus 25 equals x squared. 50 equals x squared. I need to take the square root of both sides of the equal sign. When I do that, this is the same thing as saying 2 times 25. We can't take the square root of the 2, so the square root of 2 stays where it is, but the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so let's try another one. These are not isosceles triangles. I am so sorry that my drawings are so bad. Let's see, let's take 12. So 12 squared plus 12 squared equals x squared. It's just the Pythagorean theorem. So 144 plus 144 equals x squared. Then I add the two numbers together and I get 288 equals x squared. I take the square root of both sides of the equal sign. When I do that, this is the same thing as 2 times 144. When I take the square root of 2, I can't do that because it's an irrational number. But the square root of 144 is 12. Oh, I messed up. Oops, sorry. That shouldn't be there. Okay. Are we noticing a pattern yet? Are we noticing a pattern yet? Other than I can't draw isosceles triangles. Let's say this is 11. So this is 11 squared plus 11 squared. How many want to take a wild guess at what the answer comes out to be? Hopefully you already know what the answer is. Okay? Then I'm going to get 242 equals x squared. I take the square root of both sides of the equal sign. This is the same thing as saying 2 times 121. When I do that, I get 11 radical 2. So if you notice on each one of these that we did, we were finding the hypotenuse. Every time we were finding the hypotenuse, I ended up with the square root of 2. Each time we ended up with the square root of 2. So we had the side times the square root of 2. So if I told you that the side is going to be 3 centimeters. Okay? That means the hypotenuse is going to be 3 radical 2 centimeters. I didn't even have to do any work. I should say this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay? It only works on a 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay? So if I did another 45, 45, 90 triangle, and the side was 732 meters, I don't even have to do any work. The hypotenuse is going to be 732 radical 2 meters. I didn't even have to do any work. Now let's look at it when we're given the hypotenuse and we're trying to find the sides. Okay? Actually, I don't want to use 4. I don't want to use 4. I want to use an odd number. And there's a reason I want to use an odd number to start off. So when I use this, I'm going to do x squared plus x squared equals 5 squared. So x squared plus x squared, there's an invisible 1 in front of each one of these. It becomes 2x squared equals 25. I need the x squared to be by itself. So I divide by 2 on both sides, and I get x squared equals 25 over 2. I take the square root of both sides of the equal sign. When I do that, I'm just going to take it apart this first time so you can see it. Okay? The square root of 25 over 2 is the same thing as saying the square root of 25 over the square root of 2. When I take the square root of 25, I get 5. I can't take the square root of 2, so I leave it as is. I don't do anything else with it. Now, I need to get that radical out of the denominator. We cannot have the radical in the denominator. So I'm going to multiply both the top and the bottom by the square root of 2. When I do that, I'm going to get 5 radical 2. Guys, this right here, that becomes radical 4, or the square root of 4, which is, amazingly, 2. Okay, so let's try this again. Okay? Try it again. Oh, that was horrible. So I'm doing the same exact thing I was doing a moment ago. So x squared plus x squared equals 11 squared. It's going to get me 2x squared equals 121. I divide both sides by 2. I get x squared equals 121 over 2. So then I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I'm actually going to write it like this because I'm still taking the square root of both sides. x is going to equal, the square root of 121 is 11. The square root of 2, we don't know. We could approximate, but we don't want to. We want exact answers. So again, I don't want this square root of 2 in the denominator. I have to do what's called rationalizing the denominator. And when I do that, I get x equals 11 radical 2 over 2. So do you see a pattern yet? Do you see a pattern yet? Okay, we're going to do it again. Okay, I take x squared plus x squared equals 13 squared. 2x squared, because when I add x squared with x squared, I get 2x squareds. This would get me 169. I need the x squared by itself, so I divide both sides by 2. I get x squared equals 169 over 2. I take the square root. I get x equals, the square root of 169 is 13. And we don't know what the square root of 2 is. And because we don't know what the square root of 2 is, we multiply in the numerator and the denominator by the square root of 2. So x equals 13, that was horrible, square root of 2 over 2. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing the pattern. Okay, do you see the pattern? One last one. And I'll do 9. So x squared plus x squared equals 9 squared. Now how many people can come up with the answer without even doing any work? Divide by 2 and get x squared equals 81 over 2. I take the square root, I take the square root. I get x equals 9 over the square root of 2. I multiply by the square root of 2 on the top and the bottom. So x equals 9 radical 2 over 2. Now hopefully you noticed on each one of them, when you've been given the hypotenuse and you're trying to find the leg, that all you do is take the side measure. All you're doing is you take the side measure and you multiply it by the square root of 2 over 2. That's all you're doing. So if I shouldn't say side measure. I apologize for that. I should say hypotenuse. There we go. Measure and you multiply by the square root of 2 over 2. So if I'm tell you my hypotenuse is equal to 16, so my side is going to be 16 times radical 2 over 2. Okay, so 16 radical 2 over 2. Well, guys, that can be simplified. 2 goes into 16 8 times, so it actually comes out to 8 radical 2 as your answer. Okay, let's do it again. So my hypotenuse is 113. I don't know. My side measure, I take the 113, I multiply it by the square root of 2, and I divide by 2. I didn't even have to do any work for it.